Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wimbledon Spiritualist Church, both those here in the church and those online. You can see I'm not Rail Jackie, I'm Mary Dixie, and they're away this weekend, so I'm chairing. And I'd like to welcome our medium for this morning, Phil Shaw. Phil, good morning.
Good morning,
and
Mary.
can I ask you to open the service in prayer?
Yes,
Thank
of course.
you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Please would you join me in prayer? Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, as we link with your divine energy and the power that you have to influence and bring love and enlightenment to people across the universe, and particularly within our own sphere of planetary existence, we ask that you will bring us the peace and enlightenment that we seek for the furtherance of our individual and our collective development. We also pray for the peoples of the world and those that are less fortunate than we are at this present time. We send out particular thoughts for the souls that were lost at sea from the crossings they were attempting to our country. And we pray for them and their families and all those across the world who are suffering in war-torn countries and with famine and with poor water filtration and all that causes chaos and mayhem to so many people. We are very privileged to be here today to celebrate the fact that we are able to come together as a community and celebrate your love and your divine energy. And in this form of gratitude, we ask that you will give us the confidence and the ability to move forward with hope and with faith in ourselves. We pray also for the animal community. We pray for wildlife, marine life, and all sentient beings. And may we all be blessed by the elements that contain our being, the wind, the earth, the fire, and the water. And thank you for the wonderful gifts of nature and everything that lifts our spirit and makes us able to celebrate the fact that we are living human beings, guided and guarded by our spirit and our soul. And I would just like to finish this prayer with the Lakota Indian blessing. Teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear, and thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. That was lovely. Before we carry on, can I remind those in the church to turn your phones off? Don't turn them off online, otherwise you won't be receiving us. Thank you, everybody. Now, we have some names for healing today. I have our Shirley, who's in the church, our Babs, who's still unwell, Poppy, Rose, Leslie, Cherie, Mahindra, Caroline, her daughter, Lorraine, little Billy, little girl who's not too well again at the moment, Pauline, Kevin, Wendy Payne and family, George, who's actually struggled out and is with us today, Kevin, I said Kevin, sorry, there might be two Kevins, Margarita, the Pulteney family, Mick, Brenda, Mark, Sandra and Karen. If you can keep those names in your thoughts and those of ones known personally to yourself, and I would ask that thoughts of healing go to them and to the whole world, to the animal kingdom as well. And I ask that if it is the time for any to go back to the world of spirit, please let their passing be as pain-free and peaceful as possible. Amen. I would now like to ask you all to say the Serenity Prayer, which Richard kindly will put up on the screen. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Powerful words. Right. There is, I'm going to ask, no, George is outside today, so Jim's going to go round with the collection, during which time Richard will put up the adverts. And don't forget that there is a collection that you can do to us via PayPal. Is https ... Oh, I can't read all this. Anyway, I'm sure it's at the bottom there. So if you can do that, we'd be most grateful. Thank you very much for your offerings from the past. Can I ask you to put the adverts up, Richard, please?
You're watching a divine service, broadcasting live to Facebook and YouTube. The show will continue after these short announcements. Sunday afternoon we have the Sunday Sofa with Polly and Jane offering advice and readings. In the evening from 8 p.m. we have our free VIP mediumship development class with Marcus Lapser. More information can be found in the VIP lounge. Tomorrow morning we have our show, Brunch with SPTV. This is hosted by Alison and Stace, that starts from 11 a.m. with guests, readings, discussions, workshops, and much more. From 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Matt and Kirsty host their Spiritual Questions and Answers show, with live oracle and mediumship readings. For more information on our broadcasts, schedule, and information about the presenters, please visit our website. That's it for all the announcements. I'll pass you back to Wimbledon Spiritualist Church. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody. Could we have some names up on the screen, Richard, of people that have joined with us online today, so we can say a few good mornings? Oh, Karen King, good morning.
Leslie, good morning. Thank you for joining us today.
Ashley, morning, Ashley. Hope you're having a lovely time.
Good morning, Petra. Nice to see you. Hope you're well and the family.
Good morning, Olwyn. We do miss you. Come back soon.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you're well. Thank you.
Janine, good morning. Welcome.
Eva, good morning, and welcome to you too. Thank you very much.
And a couple more, Richard. Hello, Christiane.
Good morning, Kim, and nice to see you here again for a Sunday service.
And Julie. Morning, Julie.
And Sally. So Sally, good
Okay,
morning.
Sally.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Take care. And we'll now go on and I will do today's reading. Thank you, Julie. That's nice of you. The reading this morning is from a book by called Healing Angel and Other Poems by Irene Stead, and the reading is entitled My Other Senses. The colour of the rainbow are just as bright to me. They're warm and soft and vivid, although I cannot see. I have 4 other senses that are sharpened like a knife. They are waiting here to serve me, to help me through my life. My taste buds up, raring to go. Until I taste, I do not know. Good food there upon my plate, smelling good, I just can't wait. Feels like silk, what can compare, as I sit and brush my hair. Just running it through my fingers, how that softness lingers. Smell a friend within a room, by her sweet, fragrant perfume. Rich red roses please my nose, in a vase they proudly pose. Sweet violins the music play, lay back, relax on a summer's day. Hear the trickling of the rain, soft vibrations on the window pane. Oranges, pinks and vivid blues dazzle my mind, so many to choose. When someone says a colour to me, magnificent spectrum in my mind. My eyes may be closed to what you see, but I have so much here with me. I see this spectrum here inside, fantasy colours I can't describe. I try not to question what happened to me. I just live my life and try to be as the Lord intended and do all I can to live in love and peace with my fellow man. That's the end of the reading, and if I can ask you, Phil, to give us your address. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Yes, that was a very poignant, touching poem for me, because I think what that really gives us is a high degree of thankfulness and gratitude for not only the senses that we possess as human beings, but also gives us a sense of celebration, and celebrating the fact that we are, more than perhaps we often realize, living very privileged lives. And I don't mean privileged in the sense necessarily of monetary worth or career or anything in that line, but more to do with what we have been given naturally as human beings. And we give thanks for those senses that are mentioned in the poem. And the particular sense of that is highlighted in this piece, the sense of sight, the fact that we are actually able to see when we communicate with people. I'm sure that a person who is blind is seeing in a different kind of way, but nevertheless, the fact that we can see color and we can see images of almost any kind is really fuel for our soul. It's fuel for our inspiration. Look at how many artists and poets and painters have been inspired by the fact that they are able to see. And not just the people that are able to see, but also the people that maybe have another sense that they are deprived of. Beethoven, for instance, the composer who became deaf in his later years and was still able to write beautiful, beautiful, inspiring music. And music that was actually then, at that point, on a different kind of level, on a different plane, because having been deprived of his physical sense of hearing, he was able to draw on his capacity to be inspired and empowered by his inner sense rather than his outer exterior sense. So I think this really is about, as well as being about gratitude, this poem also gives us that ability to be inspired and to be inspirational, because the more that we intake the images that we see and the images that translate into feelings and emotions, the more we are able to give to others. So indirectly, the senses are, if you like, a process of receiving and giving out. And if we go right back to the whole premise of spirituality and spiritualism, it is about the experience of receiving and giving. And in that giving, we celebrate the fact that we are receiving all this incoming information to our senses, not just the sight and the sound, but also the taste and the touch. And isn't it wonderful when you touch or pick up a newborn baby and you feel the limbs and the strength of that little child, that new creation, and how that makes you feel, grateful and inspirational. So, and I also just want to take this back to the word that I used earlier, which is empowerment, and how empowerment in itself is strength for the spirit and the soul, and fortifies the spirit and soul. It's about solid reinforcement of our spiritual values. That's what empowerment is actually doing. It's facilitating that reinforcement of our beliefs and our conviction. And at the same time, the empowerment is giving us the will and the need and the desire to move out to the outside world and communicate our love, our feelings, our emotions, and what we have received in this process of taking in and giving back. And I would like, just interestingly, this only occurred to me yesterday, but the Italian verb for communicate is comunicare. Now, communicare, if you look at that, the end part of the word is C-A-R-E, care. So communication and care are one and the same thing. When we communicate with people, we are caring because we have a need to communicate. And in that process of communicating, we are offering care. We are desiring care, to give care and to receive care back from how that person responds to our communication. So perhaps this behoves us to think more about when we communicate, how we communicate, and what we communicate, rather than just superficial chit-chat. And really listening to how we communicate and what we say and what we receive back. Because if we're speaking and communicating from the soul, then what we are receiving back is equally a soul communication, because we're communicating with a person or people on that level of soul. And if we're doing that particular form of giving, then you can be sure that what is coming back is going to be from that person's soul perspective. And I'd like to also draw your attention to a wonderful book that I read many years ago, which is called Care of the Soul by Thomas Moore. So if you get a chance to look at that book, read that book, it's a wonderful testimony to how the soul is responsive to so much incoming information, and how it processes that information and then embellishes it within our beings for the purpose of giving back to people. And of course, when we communicate, we are healing. We are sending healing to people. It isn't just about hands-on healing, valuable though that is. It's also about the words we use, how we structure our phrasing, the emphasis we give to words, and the energy and the spiritual vitality and healing that is embedded in language. So I would just like to give you that to think about, and how the raising of our consciousness in this respect is allowing us to become a lighthouse. It's allowing us to become a beacon for others to draw close when they need that upliftment, when they need that security that they're losing for whatever reason in their personal lives. And if we can be a beacon and a lighthouse for spiritual truth and power, then we are making a very, very valuable contribution to the art of communication and giving. So friends, I would ask you please to look within yourselves, to dig deep, to excavate, to mine for gold, because the gold is that part of our being, the soul, that doesn't discriminate. It's pure giving, it's unconditional love, and pure truth. And once we've excavated and brought that truth to the surface and are aware of it, but consciously as well as unconsciously, then we are being true to our beliefs, our conviction, and our spiritualism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil, for that lovely address. Really good. Thank you. Now, before I hand over to Phil for, excuse me. Oh, thanks, June, for that. Before I hand over to Phil to do the mediumship, please don't forget, those in the church here, it's a nice loud yes and no. And if you don't understand, then tell Phil. And those online, when you answer, it's not just a yes or a no. You've got to say, yes, I understand that Uncle Joe was a carpenter and Auntie Mary was a seamstress. So it's being very clear about your answering, and I would then like to hand you back over to Phil for his clairvoyance. Thank you, Amy. Phil would love that. It's nice of her. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Good. So I think that was pretty clear. Mary was recommending that you can speak up. Obviously, if you're in the church, you can speak up and say whether or not you understand what is being given, and also for those of you online to say yes, you agree or you accept whatever's being said, but yes to whatever it is. Okay, good. So thank you very much. So I'm going to alternate between the congregation and the online. I usually know where I'm going straight away, so that should make life a lot easier. Right, now where am I going? Yes, I'd like to come to June, please. Morning, June. I do know June, but I know very little about her personal life. And I'm getting very strongly your mother in spirit here, June. Because your mother is coming to me. First of all, she's showing me her physical being as she was on the earth plane, and I'm getting quite a small, framed lady here. All right? When she was young. She's showing me when she was young. Yes, yes. And she's showing me also the fact that she liked to wear clothes that were, that in a way didn't make her stand out. That sort of, not sort of put her into the background too much, but she didn't particularly like very bright colours. She liked more subdued shades. Pastel colours. All right, but she's showing me the emphasis on this is about colour, but it's a variety of colour. It's like a kaleidoscope of colour. All right, and she's also taking her hair back for me. She's combing her hair back and putting it to the back. Yes? When she was young. No, no. Because she's just saying that her hair was fine and that she was taking it back. Right, right. Okay. Yes, okay. She's talking about before she passed, because she wants to just come up to that point of passing. And she said that she was getting very de-energized. Yes, she said that the energy was really leaving her body very rapidly. And she said that there was an expectation that she would probably live longer than she actually did. And her passing was actually at the end quite fast. Quite fast. She's also giving me a fuzzy feeling in her head, as though she was sort of losing balance in some way, and she was becoming very disorientated. Okay, okay. She talks about she has a brother in spirit. Yes, because she said she met up with her brother as soon as she crossed over, and she's also talking about Charlie in spirit. On father's side of the family, Charlie. All right. But anyway, let's get back to the brother, because she said she was delighted to see her brother because there was a lot of similarity between her and her brother. Right. Well, I want the younger brother of the 5. And she's talking about similarity facially, and the fact that that particular brother was when he was here, he was very ebullient and very, very lively. And he was very much a person for encouraging people to keep up their spirits. Yes, because she said she also, through her life, was privy to people giving her information, which could have been, if she hadn't had respect for the people that were talking to her and giving her information, she could have given that information out to other people, which she didn't, because she said she was very firm about being confidential with information that was given to her. All right. And your father went before her to spirit.
No, my mum went first.
Your mum went first, because she's talking about Dad. Okay, thank you. She said that your father, at various points in his life, seemed to have sort of illness, well, not illness, serious illnesses, but ailments that came and went fairly quickly. Yes. So at one point you might have thought, oh, Dad's a lot worse than he is, but then he got better. Yes, because she's talking about that, and she said that was important for you to understand. All right? Yes, and she's talking also about primroses, because she liked flowers, and she liked also lily. She's talking about lily of the valley and the primroses. Yes, she's talking about a link to Scarborough in the north. Yes, because she said that's a memory link for her, and it's also a memory link for her mother in Scarborough.
That would be the in-laws.
Right.
My mum's in-laws.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And she's taking one more memory for you. When you were young, you had a dress or a skirt or a dress with a sort of a sash that was tied on the side of the dress. All right, because she's going quite a way back here with that. Okay, and she's talking about rhyming or words like poetry with rhyming lines, and how when you were younger you were very drawn to poetry or writing of that kind with rhyme. Okay. Well, anyway, she wants to give you that. She's come today, June, and she's talking about June because she says there's a birthday celebration in June as well. Because she mentions June twice. She mentions your name and then she mentions the birthday celebration. And the 24th of June, she references particularly. 24th of June for a birthday celebration. All right. Okay. The message is, June, that she's aware of the fact that over the last few weeks you've been quite muddled in your thought process. And she's talking about now getting back to, as she puts it to me, getting back to basics. Because she said you've been taking on a lot of new responsibility, which is great, but she said you need to pace yourself now. And she said that's the key, because if you can pace yourself, everything will get done in its own time. You understand? Okay. And she talks about, you have a sister living. Yeah. But she talks about your sister having, again, to slow down. Because she said your sister's had a few health problems, not least of which is a problem in the chest area, with a kind of a cough or congestion or, yes. And she said she's been very aware of that. She's been helping your sister, her daughter, with that condition, with the healing. And she's also aware of the fact that your sister has been trying to sort out a situation She's been trying to sort out a situation which is to do with paperwork and contacting an authority about a particular situation. Yes, she has. And your mum's very aware of that, and she says she's been helping your sister to sort that out. All right? So that's your message, June. Thank you very much for working with me. Thank you. Right. Richard, can I have some names, please, on the screen so I can see who we might be going to here? Hello, yes. Can I come to Lynn, please? I'd like to work with you, Lynn, if that's okay. Lynn Taylor. Thanks, Lynn. As I link with you, Lynn, I'm very aware of a gentleman in spirit who would come in on as an uncle on your father's side of the family. And this gentleman shows himself to me as a gentleman who would have been very quite formal in his living way, and he shows me the fact that he was somebody who had strong principles and somebody who was very disciplined in the way that he worked and the way that he dealt with people in life. so that he liked order, he liked to be very efficient and economical. He's giving me the word economical, particularly about the way that he would speak and that he would measure his words and his dialogue, so that nothing really was wasted in terms of speech, and he would get directly to the point and make himself known in a very specific way. So he's also talking to me about the fact that he was somebody who tried to get a lot in, to pack a lot into his life, and that he wanted to be as active as he possibly could be, but that towards the end of it, or middle to end of his life, he started to become slower in the way that he was able to function and the things that he was able to do. He's showing me. I'm not saying that he was a carpenter in any way, but he was showing me furniture and household objects that he would be particularly fond of, not renovating as such, but making them look nice and making sure that furniture and household items were always in their right place, and that everything looked clean and smart, because cleanliness and tidiness was one of the quality, or two of the qualities that he really was very specific about. So I hope that you're understanding some of this, Lynn. And if you no feedback, right? Okay. All right. Well, I'll just carry on. If you could let me know that you can take the uncle, this gentleman, the uncle on the father side of the family, Lynn, that would be good. You didn't know any of your uncles, right? Okay. So, all right. Fine. Pardon? Yeah, got work cut out. Okay, Lynn. But anyway, he wants to talk about the fact that the family unit, as it is, your family, sounds like your granddad. Okay. He was giving me uncle. I don't really want to deflect from that, but can you take any of the other information that I gave you that he was giving me, Lynn, as regards his physicality and his behaviour, and the fact that he was quite a well-groomed man, but he was very specific about what he wanted in life and how he used that economy of words to put across his wants and his desires. So if you could just tell me whether that is making any sense to you, that would be great. And yes, particularly the fact that he wants to really talk about, yes, thank you, Lynn, good. So it seems as if that is your granddad, but I want to, so this would be, can you just tell me whether this is your granddad on your father's side? So is this your father's father or your mother's father? Because that will make a difference. And if it's your father's father, then that would, yes, that would suggest to me that, yes, okay. Fine. He's telling me that he was a man who tried to embrace the whole family. He tried to make it one of his cardinal rules to make sure he saw as many family members as possible, and he felt a sort of a responsibility to try to keep the family unit together in some way, because there have been splits, there have been separations in the family, which have caused rifts and upsets, which you would know about. So he wants to make it very clear that he understands about the fact that you yourself have tried to rectify certain situations, and that you also have, or rather you have a brother living. If you could, oh, it's your mother's father, I think you're saying here, right? Okay. So I'm taking it, Lynn, that you can, you're accepting all the information except the fact that he wasn't your uncle, your father's brother, but it's your granddad, and all the information that's being given can be taken. So if you could just clarify that, and talk to me, please, about the family unit and the fact that this gentleman had a desire to keep the family unit together, but it has been separated at certain times, and that you've been very key in trying to bring members of the family unit back together again in some way. And that, yeah, if you could clarify that for me, please, Lynn. Right. He's also talking about the east end of, yes, you have a brother. Good. I'm glad you can clarify that. Because he's talking about that brother of yours, Lynn, and he's saying that that brother has been under a misunderstanding about somebody. He had believed that this person was going to be somebody that he could trust and that who he could invest confidence in. And then this particular person let your brother down. Now, this has been a source of sort of disillusionment for your brother, and it's made him, your brother generally is a person that is very, can be very easily destabilized emotionally. And you're a good source of bringing back confidence to your brother, and generally bringing back confidence to members. Thank you, Lynn. Yes. Generally bringing back confidence to the family. You're a great linchpin in your family, because whenever people have problems, they always come to you, and then you're suddenly able to sort of say things. He says, your granddad, in a very economic way, like he did, that just puts them back onto the, you know, onto the even keel again. And you don't need to say, you found that this technique works very well for you, Lynn, in not saying very much. The least that is said, the better, as far as the way that you help family members, and that seems to be very effective for you. So that's what he really wants to say, and he wants to say that he's been helping your brother. Healing is coming to your brother, because not only was he disillusioned by this particular individual that he thought he could trust, but that he's also realized that your brother's realized that there's a lot more that he needs to be self-expressive within life, in terms of his furthering his career, furthering his desires and interests in life, and that he's somebody that has really devoted his life to his family and given so much to them that he's left very little for himself. I mean, it's a very admirable quality, but yes, that's true. Thank you, Lynn. But he needs now to start in a way, without being you know, narcissistic or egotistical in any way, but putting himself first. And that's really where your brother's priority is at this moment in time. You also have a daughter, Lynn, and he's talking about your daughter and the fact that she has come into a new sense of her own empowerment, and that's the word I was using earlier, empowerment, and realized that she can actually stand on her own 2 feet, and she can do things that she didn't think were possible at one time. And a lot of this is down to you and the confidence, the quiet, nurturing confidence that you've given to her. So he wants to say a great big pat on the back for doing that. And that is certainly to your credit, Lynn, for the work that you've done, not only with members of the family, but also with your daughter, and continuing to help your brother to reinforce his own sense of self-worth and value. So if you could let me know that you understand that, Lynn, that would be great. And I can also say that your mum, spirit side, please can you confirm that your mum is in spirit? Because I'm getting a lady who comes with that particular energy for you, your mother. And yes, this lady is saying that she misses all the celebrations and the knees ups, as she calls it. And she's pleased to see that you're enjoying yourself more now and getting out more, and just generally relaxing more and not feeling that you need to carry the world on your shoulders. So that's really, I think, what I just need to say. You do try, you're a good listener, Mum's in spirit. Thank you, Lynn, and this is Mum's message to you, as well as your granddad's message, and thank you for working with me. Thank you, Lynn. Right, so I'm going to come back to the church now. Where am I being drawn? Where am I being drawn? Yes, yes. Daphne, I'd like to come to you. Yes, thank you, Daphne. I do know Daphne, she's a church friend, a member, but I know very little about her personal life. So Charlie, I'm being given Charlie in spirit, Daphne. Yes, Charlie. All right? Yes, yes, because he comes to you with he comes to you to talk about when he was living and the fact that he was a person that people thought in some ways was quite retiring and quite, in a sense, misguidedly standoffish. But he said, I would sometimes give that impression, but it wasn't who I was. And I was somebody that would actually move more towards people when I felt more confident in my ability to communicate with them, and more confident in the fact that I felt they actually understood I had something important to say. You understand?
I do, if it's him.
Yes, yes, yes. Because he said, and also, he said, I was very reticent about, I would hardly ever give my age away to anyone. He was very conscious of age and the fact that you were somebody that was as old as you felt, and that it wasn't important to tell people how old you were. Okay, he's talking about him, not you. All right?
Yes.
Yes, yes. He said there was also quite an element of, although it didn't come out a lot to other people, but there was an element of theatricality about him. Although he wasn't in the profession, there was an element of theatricality. In other words, that he liked to sometimes come out of his shell and sort of be a bit over the top.
Make us laugh.
Yes, yes, and particularly at a party or a celebration where people would say, oh my goodness, Charlie's doing that. Ooh. So he laughs about that, and he's showing me a clown's outfit. Now this is metaphorical. It's not that he was a clown or whatever, but he's talking about the fact that he liked to at times clown about, and that he could be a bit of a practical joker.
It's awkward because being that it's a nickname, I'm not sure.
Right, right. Okay, okay. He's talking about links to other countries here, and the fact that he was connected to people in other countries.
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that, because that's what he's talking about. And he's talking about, yes, I will. He's talking about the fact that when he became sort of middle-aged, he was somebody that became very attracted to books and study in a way. He liked to improve his mind.
Not Charlie, no.
No? Okay. Well, anyway, this gentleman who's giving me the name of Charlie is talking about this, and he's saying that he wasn't ready. Well, he's saying he wasn't ready to go when he went. No, he definitely wasn't ready to go when he went. He wants to also take a memory give me a memory of cars, and the fact that he said, I was never any good at cars. Is that? Sorry?
He didn't drive.
No, but he said, I was never any good at cars. And he liked to get around, but he couldn't at certain times in his life. He was prevented from traveling or going to places because of personal responsibilities. Definite, yes. And he said that made me a little bit, not embittered, but a bit, oh, everybody else is getting out and I'm not getting out. And it's not the way I want my life to be. All right. Okay? You understand that? Yes, yes. He's talking also about agriculture. Not that he worked in agriculture, but that he was very attracted to countryside and the process of, yes, I will. Because he had a feeling or a desire, I would say, to get to the countryside at some point in his life.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
I said
Yes,
yes.
Ivor said yes. Good, okay. Because he said that it got too much for him sometimes living in a built-up area, and that he felt that he wanted to get away and be a countryman as opposed to a town man. Okay? Yes. He also had problems with his feet when he was living. He had problems with his feet. Can Ivan confirm that?
Maybe he was not better.
Yeah, because he's saying it wasn't just the feet, it was the legs as well, sort of up to the legs, and the fact that that was sort of impeded sometimes his walking. And he's also talking about some arthritis that would have come in his joints and in his back, particularly.
He was aware of it.
Yeah, because he's taking me back to earlier in his life. All right? Yes. Because he seems to want to come to you more, Ivan. Yes? And not that I'm excluding you here for Daphne, but he wants to come to you because he's talking about the 15th of April as an anniversary date of a passing in the family, 15th of April. He's also talking about his interest in history and English history in particular. Would you understand that? Yes? Yes. Because funnily enough, he's taking me to the Tower of London, in London, and he's talking about the Tudor kings and queens, and particularly Henry VIII. And he's showing me Henry VIII sitting on his throne in all his regalia. And he's saying that's an image, because he said when you were younger, you used to think a lot about historical figures and kings and queens and what they did and how they lived and generally, yes. And he said that he was always aware of the fact that you had this love of history and tradition. And he said he wants you now to look to the past, to look at the times that you really enjoyed in the past and that gave you fulfillment and gave you enjoyment and laughter, because he said you have a very, it's very quick for you now to let yourself go down and feel kind of low in energy and get with a little bit of depression. And he said he wants you to kind of revisit the past in your mind and look at old photographs and whatever and get this sense of renewal inside you. Yes, I do that. Good, and get out. He's talking about Tommy, that he's met Tommy in spirit, who's somebody that you would have worked with or would have been associated with you on a friendship level. Tommy. Okay. Excuse me. And yeah, he's also talking about the that you've intermittently had a few little problems down here in the stomach area. That could be related to IBS or some similar condition. IBS. Is that more you, Daphne? Because I'm getting that with Ivan. Right, more you, because he said again, healing's going out for that condition. Okay. He's with a lady also that would have worn very flouncy ascot type hats. And you know who that is, because he's just bringing her in. And he's saying that she wishes to be remembered to you. And yes, I will. Come on. Thank you. Scotty. That lady is bringing a Scotty dog. Scott, she's saying Scotty.
She had a friend, Scotty.
Oh, she had a friend, Scotty. Yeah. She brought a dog in, and then she said Scotty. So I was assuming she was bringing a Scotty dog, because I couldn't actually see the breed of the dog. But Scotty, definitely. Yes? Okay, yes. In fact, she's talking about how much you enjoyed dancing when you were young. Yes?
Oh,
yes. And she said, I know it's difficult now with physical problems and so on, but whenever you get the chance to dance or to move, or just to put on a record, she said, try and do that, because she said that's so good for you to loosen up. Mentally and physically. Yes. All right? Okay. June the 4th. June the 4th is a relevant date for you.
Can't think of that.
June the 4th, birthday.
Can't think of that. No, it's close.
Okay. You will. I'm telling you, you will. You remember that. All right, Daphne. Thank you very much for working with me, and thank you, Ivan. Thank you. Right, let's come back online here. Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Thank you very much, Kaylee. Christine. Christine, could I go back to Christine, please? Christine Marie. Good morning, Christine. Very nice to see you here. And yes, yeah. I'm getting an overwhelming sense now, Christine, of your mother in spirit, because she was very well along the pathway she was very much on the pathway of spiritual awakening and awareness quite early on in her physical life. and she shows me a strong picture of seascape and cliffs, and she was a person that loved to be out in open spaces and just be amongst the elements and really soak in the elements of life. She found it quite difficult earlier on in her life to kind of adjust to the physical, because she's telling me that she had particular incarnations, which I'm not going to go into now, where she was, her life was very predominantly motivated by spiritual living and spiritual observance. And she said that when she came into this life of physicality, it took her quite a few years to really adjust to the physical life. But she said that when she was able to find her own particular, or get her own particular footing in the physical world, she started to really make a contribution which reinforced her own sense of self-worth and validity. And that gave her a great deal of personal satisfaction. So if you could let me know, Christine, if this is making sense to you. She was a very spiritual person always. Yes, thank you very much. And she talks also about the fact that she moved away from conventional, let's call it conventional, traditional religion, to pursue a pathway that was much more of her own choosing, of her own making. So she didn't really particularly ally herself to one particular school of thought or religion, but she developed and nurtured and really developed her own sense of spiritual belief here. She was also she was telling me that she was very mediumistic, but that she didn't pursue that really in the way that a spiritualist would pursue that. But she did it in her own way. She did mediumship and healing in her own way. In other words, that when people were around her, or when she was with family members or in groups, she would exude a very spiritual quality, which, and she was able to heal and be of comfort and be of service to people in that way. She's talking about, yes, that she had a link to France or a link to Paris, because she's taking me to, she loved the outdoors, thank you. She's taking me to Paris and France, and particularly northern France. And she's also taking me to Versailles, because she says that in these particular localities, there were, let's say she experienced well springs of rejuvenation. And she was a very kind, caring person, thank you. She experienced this rejuvenation, which gave her a greater sense of her purpose in life. And although she'd spent many years trying to get a kind of a structure to her life, she'd never really found a way of doing that. And she found that in the end, it was much easier to just follow her natural intuition and be responsive to a spiritual calling rather than a structure which would have been physically imposed on her life. So that is what she is, she's telling me about that, Christine. And she's also talking, yes, please, thank you. She's talking about the fact that in the end, just before her passing, she felt that she wanted a great deal more space. She felt that things were closing in around her a lot, and she was very, very sincerely and eternally grateful for all the help that you gave her in being able to maintain this sense of privacy. She said that privacy was something that was very, very important to her all through her life, and that really kept her going, and that you were very essential in being able to safeguard her from people. She was exactly as you have described her. Thank you very much, Christine. So you safeguarded her, you kept her strong, you kept her very buoyant. And she's also talking about, she said, I let my imagination run away with me so many times. And she said, you kept me grounded, you kept me 2 feet on the ground and stopped me going off on these flights of fancy, which would have been so difficult. She said she always wanted to, it's a very strange thing to say, but she always wanted to fly. I don't mean fly as in get in an aeroplane. She always wanted to physically, spiritually fly in the air. And she said it would have been so much quicker from getting from A to B. But she said, I've been doing a lot of flying in my present life here in spirit. And she said it's wonderful because you can get to places you've never ever seen before. And she's talking to me also, Christine, about your love of animals and zoology and wildlife. And she's bringing me the polar bear, because she says the polar bear is a power animal for you. It's a great power animal, and you get very, very motivated by the polar bear. She's also wanting you to resurrect your interest in astrology, because she said you did start to get to grips with astrology in a very good way, and then you put it aside because you thought, no, I can't really do that properly. But she says you can, and you need to look at it again, because there is a form of, or there's something there that you can also use as a tool to help people. What are you saying to me here? She did. I cared for her and found a suitable place that cared for her every need. Okay, that's good, Christine. Thank you very much. She says she's also in her communication now with your father in spirit. They've been able to resolve differences that they had when they were on the earth plane, which seemed to be unresolvable when they were here. And they never quite jumped that hurdle of resolving that situation. And she says that situation, which you would be very, very well aware of, and that situation also relating to your sister, all right, your sister living. So you'll know what that's about. I don't want to really go into detail about that, but she says your father and I have cleared that situation now, and that is all resolved. Just before I leave you, Christine, she's talking also about your interest in crystal healing and gem energy, gem energetics. She says gem energetics, because that's something that, again, you can look at and you can be become very accomplished in the field. So if you could let me know, Christine, if you can accept that, that would be appreciated. Thank you, Christine. I know that my parents were opposites on earth. That's okay. Well, they've resolved that now, Christine. So yes, I will. 27. She talks about the number 27 being very important to you, and particularly the 27th of March, because the 27th of March is a passing of a lady that would have been great friends with you on the earthly journey. 27th of March is the passing date. Excuse me, I just need to have some water. Okay. Well, I hope you can take that last piece of information, Christine, and thank you very much for working with me, and it's good to see you here. Thank you. Right. Now I'm going to come back to the church. Where am I going? Val, I'd like to come to you, please. Hello, Val. I know Val, but again, not very much about her personal life. And as I link with you, Val, I'm linking with your mother's father. So, yeah, your grandfather. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because he shows me as a very, very kindly gentleman, the kind of gentleman that if you put him in a excuse me, if you put him in a Santa Claus outfit, he wouldn't look out of place, because you could see there's a kindly gentleman there that people would come to for counselling. Yes?
I never knew it, but I could but I've got his photographs.
Oh, you've got his photograph, right? Because he's talking to me about the fact, he said you could have likened me to a Mr. Pickwick character when I was here, and he's saying incidentally, Charles Dickens is an author that it was very important in his life because he was a reader, and he says Charles Dickens is very important in your life. Yeah. And he said my trouble was, he said I never knew how to slow down. I kept on going and going and going, and then suddenly, there was nowhere else to go. And he said I just kind of went like that into spirit. So it was very quick passing. And he said I'm very grateful because there was no lingering kind of pain or long drawn out illness. It was just literally a heart, which affected his brain as well. So I'm feeling some kind of stroke or aneurysm here with him. All right? Yes. He's also taking me to Waterloo, the place. You can take that. Because he said that was very important. He said he grew up in a very, very large family. Yes. And he said that, so he said it was a case of having to stand up for ourselves as children. And he said we weren't always given everything we wanted, because in those days you got what you were given. And he said he's laughing, he said there were no computer games or any of this. We were lucky if we got an apple and an orange for Christmas, and that was it. So he said, I had to learn from a very early age how to stand on my own 2 feet and become responsible. And he's likening that to your upbringing, where he said you also were somebody that had to take on responsibility. Yes. And you have a sister. You don't? Right. Because there's okay. Often when I've given sister, it's sometimes about a friend, a female friend, that would have been or would have felt or yes, like a sister. Because he's talking about, yes, he's talking about this lady and saying she's been through periods of quite poor health. Yes. And he's taken me to this area of her body, her anatomy, and he's saying that she's been going through times of great worry and stress. And he wants to know, because it's obviously worried you, he wants you to know that Spirit had been moving around her to heal and help. And she's a lady also that is full of regret. She's full of regret about elements of her personal life. She's full of regret about career that she could possibly have followed and didn't. And she's literally thinking, she's at a point now where she's thinking, oh, what's the point? And he wants to know that all this help is being given to her to inject some form of hope for the future. Yes, yes. There's also a link. He's taking me to Charles de Gaulle Airport. What connection does that have with you, Charles de Gaulle Airport? Right, that's interesting. That's interesting. France, yes. Are you thinking about making, this is the first question of the morning that I'm asking. Are you thinking about making a trip to France or not? Right, well, I'm not going to predict and say, I think you're going, because that's what he's giving me. All right, Charles de Gaulle Airport, that's unusual. Right, I'll try and come back to that. But anyway, to come back to your friend, help is being given. And he said, you won't know the value of the help that you've given her. It's been immense. And he wants you just to know that and to say that. I think you've done healing before, haven't you? You've done. Because he's talking about you returning to healing. And doing not only the healing that you've been used to doing, but also the fact that you work or are going to work very strongly with auric healing and colour healing. You're saying you read a book about 3 or 4 months ago about colour healing. You have, yeah. Because he said in that book, that book gave you some inspiration to think about healing in different ways. Yeah, yeah. And he said that's good, because it's not going to be the ordinary conventional healing, it's going to be about this other work as well. Yes. And he also said, when are you going to get on platform and start your inspirational speaking? You're not going there. He said, I disagree, you are going there. So whether he's going to kind of physically try and get somebody to put you on the platform, I don't know, but that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. Yeah, I bet she is. And he's talking about the 27th of November, the passing. Close. Very, very You're not there. It's close. 27th is close. Yes? Ah. He said the passing was a passing that was expected to happen at a specific time, and then it didn't happen. And it was delayed. I don't know whether you can accept that, but that's what he's saying.
It was a passing that kind of
It dragged on. It dragged on. So is the 27th significant in any other respect to this particular person?
no, not to that particular.
Because there's something about the 27th of November. Right, right, okay. Because he's got, I know your husband's in spirit, but he's brought your husband in and your husband has communicated before, but hasn't communicated a lot. Your husband's making me feel very, very emotional, because he's not only saying the obvious, which is he thanks you for all the care and attention that you gave him, but he's also talking about meeting up in spirit with the little children. Because he said he always had a great love of seeing children playing. And he said that he wished he could have participated in that joy more when he was here, of the children playing. He's also doing this and kicking a ball. Kicking a ball, and he's saying, you've no idea how often I kick around balls here. Yeah? Great. Yes. He's telling me, because he said, you don't know that much about me, so I'm going to tell you things that you don't know, but Val does know. And he said he had a particular way of writing. He was very fascinated by writing and the strokes of the pen and the images that these strokes made. So I'm talking about when you look at old-fashioned books and you see this beautiful lettering and numbering. And he said he was very, yes, I will. He had secret ambitions of wanting to be a writer of some kind.
I understand that. I do understand that.
Yeah, because he said, I'd never have written anything. I wouldn't have been Dick Creasy. He's talking about Dick Creasy. He was a crime writer, I think, in the 30s or 40s. Was it John? John Creasy.
Yeah, he used to make up stories for the kids when they were little, and I told him he should write them.
Right, okay. And he said, I don't have any aspirations to being James Bond. But he said, I liked all that stuff. Okay. He's talking about Acacia Road. Acacia Road, okay. Acacia Road. Or something similar. I thought I heard it as Acacia, but R-K-A-R-C-A. You can't think of it. Okay, thanks. And he's talking also about going back down to, he calls it Studland.
Oh, I understand that.
Studland Bay.
Yeah, I understand.
You understand that? Because he said that's a lovely memory he had of Studland Bay. And the fact that you used to love collecting the seashells. Yeah. He said they were very healing for you, seashells, and the energy that comes from seashells. Yeah, and he's talking about laughing and talking about when you found or saw the starfish. You remember? Right, Balmoral. What connection do you have to Balmoral? None. Because again, it's taking me to Scotland, to Balmoral. And that's the Queen's residence, isn't it? The Queen's residence. Oh, okay, I've got it. He was quite a strong royalist in many ways. Yeah, because he admired a lot of that pomp and circumstance. And he's talking about he said, a few of them have met the Duke of Edinburgh over here. And he said, I'm sort of in the queue. But he was very fascinated by the Duke and his lifestyle. And he said there were strong parallels about the Duke being a very private person and not many people really knowing what made the Duke tick. And he said that was me to a certain extent. Not many people knew how I ticked, except my immediate members of the family. Right, 4 o'clock. He's talking about before he passed, either a day or several days before he passed, he's showing me 4 o'clock on the clock, and just past 4 o'clock, something happened just past 4 o'clock. In the afternoon, something happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Recently, a friend that you haven't seen for many years has contacted you. Yeah, there's going to be a reunion of you and a friend that hasn't been around for a long time. He's pleased to see the fact that you're reconnecting with people in a very positive way. And he said you're letting go of your ability to free up your life more now. And he said, and that's a really good thing. He's very pleased with that. All right? Dick Van Dyke. What's Dick Van Dyke? Connect The Dick Van Dyke. You remember the Dick Van Dyke show? Now, he's saying that to me, whether he watched that or liked that. Right, he's talking about that. And he's talking about the comic book of Billy Bunter that he enjoyed when he was a boy. Yeah, yes, Scott. Who's Scott? Scott in spirit. Scott, he's talking about Scott here, Scott. A young gentleman called Scott who took his life. I might be with somebody else here now. Okay, Val. Can anybody else take Scott, young man who took his life? I'd have put him at about 30, 35, motorbike. Didn't die on the bike, but actually physically took his own life with tablets and drink. Is there anybody online that can take a Scott that would have passed through suicide? Thank you very much for working with me, Val, and sending my love. It's the last one. Okay, Mary. We'll just see if, right, Millie B. It's funny, Millie, because I almost stopped at your name earlier on, and then I was shunted over to somebody else. You can take Scott, that's good. Can you also take the fact that Scott would have been in his early to mid-30s, that he was quite tall? I would put him at about 6 foot, 6'1" even, and quite thin, lean, and yeah, he's saying about his love of rock music and the fact that he lived such a fast-paced life, and the fact that he regrets not having spoken to his parents, and particularly his mother. Oh no, you're saying it's not for you. Okay, well, is there anybody else? I'm sorry, is there anybody else there that can take Scott? Because I would like to place him before we finish. If anybody remembers Scott, they can always contact me via Facebook, my Facebook page, which is Phil Shaw Spiritualist Medium, because I feel he's there for somebody, or somebody that was online and has gone offline now. But sorry about that, Millie. Oh, just while I'm with Millie, this is the last one, Mary. I've got your grandmother here, your mother's mother, Millie. Yes, I know it's not your friend Scott, but I've got your grandmother here, your mother's mother. Yes, and She didn't take any prisoners, your grandmother, that's for certain. And she's talking to me and showing herself to me as a very full of life lady, and a lady that would have gone on and on. If she'd had her way, she'd have gone on for many, many more years. But sadly, it was not to be. And yeah, she said that she just got very confused in the end about her physical life, and thank you, Phil, yes, Nan in spirit. She got very confused about her physical life, and dementia started to kick in, and she said that, she would never have agreed to kind of all the help that was given to her at the end of her life, because she was such an independent person. But she said in the end, she just had to give into it, and she was very grateful for the help that was given. But she said that she's very pleased she's back home again, and she said that she's met back home in spirit, and she's met her husband here, and she's very much more at peace with herself, because she said, I did have this tendency to want to sort of start arguments where arguments weren't needed. She was quite a speak her mind type of lady, and she said, I wish I'd held back on many occasions. And she's linking this sometimes with yourself, Millie, if you don't mind me saying this, that sometimes she had cancer, breast cancer, but yes, very independent. And she says that at times, Millie, that you feel you've got to stand up for yourself and speak your mind, when maybe standing back and being more measured in what you're saying and when to say it would be, she's saying that would be advisable. And she's talking about the fact that you had recently the chance of a job or involvement in a situation that at the time seemed to offer more than it actually has offered. And she said, now you're thinking more about separating yourself from that situation and doing more of your own thing. In other words, you've been a little bit swayed by somebody that was trying to sugarcoat an opportunity that wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. That's the way I'm interpreting her message here. You're saying, yes, Grandad with her, he passed after she was waiting a long time, yes. So yes, she had lots of arguments with Grandad, but was all love. So if you could just tell me quickly, Millie, if you don't mind, whether that information I've just given you about the situation with the opportunity is making sense to you. And your Grand says that you've realized now that, yes, I can take that, all of the information. Good, thank you, Millie. And yes, well, that's excellent. And Grand says it's just about slowing down and being more, let's say, sure of the fact that, you know, what you've got to offer and what you've prepared for and what you've studied for is something that is going to be of value to other people. And don't keep downgrading yourself and saying, well, you know, maybe I'll do a bit of this and a bit of that. This is really your pathway, and this is what you are good at, and this is what you can excel in. So I'd like you to take Grand's information, and I say thank you very much for working with me, and thank you everybody for giving me your time and attention.
Thank you, Phil, for your mediumship. Thank you. Right, before we say goodbye, I'd like to thank Richard James, our producer of Spiritual Psychics TV, and all of those online that have watched today, and some I know watch from thousands of miles away, and you couldn't possibly be with us here physically in the church. Thank you all here in the church for being here. And we unfortunately don't know who's next week's medium, but we will publish that on Facebook very soon. And thank you once again, everybody, for being with us. And I'd like to ask Phil to close the service in prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Great Spirit, Father, Mother God, we thank you for your guidance and for the opportunity to show others your abiding light, infinite goodness, and unlimited patience. May we rest easy in the knowledge that we are loved, guided, and protected by our unseen friends, guides, and helpers in the spiritual realms. Please uplift our hearts so we may shine out and draw others towards the way of truth and light, and in so doing, make an even stronger connection to our spiritual purpose and inner truth. Amen.
Thank you, everybody, once again, and we'll join you again next week. So have a good week, everyone, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Spiritual Psychics TV. Online. Spiritual Psychics TV isn't just an online broadcasting service. We also offer many features via our website. SPTV offers a unique directory that uses geolocation to find your nearest reader or venue, just by using your postcode. The Academy section allows anyone to upload and create their own spiritual courses within minutes. For those who like to read, then our online magazine area will offer just that. The SPTV shop enables anyone to start their online shop, be it to sell used or new items. You can also find our schedule and information about our shows.
Spiritual Psychics TV, bringing spiritual people together.